Hello, welcome everybody. Thanks very much for joining us at this sunny lunchtime, wherever you are. My name's Andy Steer, and let me get this right. I am the CTO for NTT DATA Business Solutions here in the UK, previously itelligence. It's my pleasure to host you today and host the guests who we have lined up to talk to you. Before we get started and go into the detail of today's Q&A, what I wanted to do is just give you a bit of a brief reminder of how to make the most of the Hop-In platform that we're using to run the event today. So hopefully, if this works well, I can just make that a little bit bigger so you can all see that much more clearly. So the Hop-In platform, across on the right-hand side of your screen as you're looking at it, if you're in the stage area, and if you're listening to me, then you are in the stage area. On the right-hand side of the screen, under the stage tab, you can see options for chat, polls, and Q&A. The chat obviously allows you to share your comments with fellow attendees and with us on the organization team, on the presenting team. So please give us your thoughts. Let us know what you think of the session. Perhaps start off by telling us where you're joining us from today. Next will be the polling area. We've got a little poll live there at the moment. So if you have the chance, please go and complete the poll. Let us know if you're a customer, how long you've been a customer of ours. Next up, this is, of course, a Q&A event. So probably the most important thing is the Q&A panel. On here, you can submit your questions. You can review the questions that have already been submitted, and you can vote them up if you think it's a good question. Hopefully that will mean that we don't get lots of identical questions coming in. So if you see something there and you like that question, please upvote it. And you can even, if you want, add your own question down at the bottom. But of course, time dependent, we can't promise that we're going to be able to get to every single question that gets raised. But if we have any outstanding questions, then we will mop them all up and publish them on a blog post. So keep your eyes open for that on all of the usual channels. You'll also notice on the right-hand side, there's another tab at the top which says event. And if you click on that, that will take you to the area where you can access the people list. And this is very important because on this list, you can scroll or search and click on any of the contacts who are in the event today. And this is your opportunity to reach out and chat with any of the itelligence people who are available. Oh, I said itelligence, didn't I? Any of the NTT Data Business Solutions people who are on the platform today. I'm going to be fined for that one. Justin's probably going to make me put some money in the swear box. You can invite contacts to video calls, you can schedule a meeting, or you can send a direct message. We are going to keep the platform open till about 1:30. So if anybody wants to hang around, ask questions, network, you're free to do that. And we've got a range of colleagues from NTT Data Business Solutions on the platform today so that you can talk to them. So that's the Hop-In platform. That's how we're going to be running things for today. So without further ado, let's get into the meat of it, if you like. And I'm very pleased to be able to welcome, joining me today, Senior Vice President and MD of the UK&I business, Justin Brading. Justin, good afternoon.
Hi, Andy. Thanks ever so much. Great to join everybody today.
No problem at all. Thanks very much, Justin. Just a reminder, there's a little scroll going across the bottom of the screen for everybody. Please remember to put your questions into the panel. So, Justin, sure this is going to be a great conversation. I know there were some questions that came in ahead of time. Some people were good enough to send some in via email, but we'll keep an eye on the questions coming in live. Before we get started, I joined itelligence, I think it's about 11 years ago now, in an acquisition. A lot, it's probably an understatement to say a lot has changed in that time. So before we get into talking about the now and the future, how about a quick recap on that journey and what's been happening?
Yeah, thanks, Andy. And I guess I joined the itelligence business in 2010, so a year before we started working together. And again, similarly through an acquisition. And that was 3 years after NTT had acquired the global itelligence business in 27. But yeah, you're right. A lot's happened since 2010, since I joined, and 2011 since you did. And we really transformed from being, I guess, a small niche SAP reseller, focused predominantly on just ERP capability, to being an holistic SAP partner, with business split 50% between mid-market and large enterprise, and being really able to cover the full spectrum of SAP capability. You joined at the point that we really started broadening into offering capability in the analytics arena, for instance. So now we're a much broader and a more capable company, and that's been reflected in the size of the business. We've gone from a business that had around 50 people to a business that's got circa 450 people. We've got revenues that have gone from just over 10 million to over 100 million pounds in UK&I. So it's been a tremendous journey. And I think we'll reflect at the end, but we don't see this as the end of the trajectory either.
No, I'm very well aware of that. I like your phrase "tremendous journey." I would say a bit of a breakneck roller coaster, but there we go. So why now? Why are we changing the branding now to NTT DATA Business Solutions?
I think globally, entities acquired a number of businesses around the world, and really they were, I think they were struggling to articulate to the marketplace, to customers and to analysts, the strength of the business. If you've got a company that's got many brand names, the message can get lost in the marketplace. I think for our specific business, we've been using NTT DATA Business Solutions in APAC for many years. So for us, it was merely consolidating around one brand within our SAP focused business. So it was a very logical step, and frankly, probably should have happened some time ago. It's the fact that we've been owned by NTT for nearly 15 years and haven't been using their brand for that period of time, I think is partly illustrative of the way Japanese-owned organizations are very, long-term and cautious about making change. But it's great that we can utilize that the power of that single brand now.
And I think of course, the NTT DATA Business Solutions name would also have been familiar to people because it sat across the top of our itelligence logo as well, right? It's kind of always been there, for a large number of years as well.
Precisely, and I think the fact that we've just come through COVID times, the company is one of the largest global corporates, circa 60th largest global corporate, and I think it's really shone through in over the last year the strength of the business. We haven't furloughed, we haven't globally or locally. It's been a really strong period for the business despite all the challenges.
So if we think about right now, then, with the brand changing, Justin, what are some of the things that customers can expect as a result of the change?
I guess continuity is probably the biggest thing, because what we're not doing is changing the business. We're simply changing the label. So the focus, the 100% focus on SAP remains. The team and the management are precisely the same. And I think this is really important, particularly in the UK&I, when there's been a real consolidation of partners in the SAP arena. When big SIs have acquired other SAP partners. And over the 18 months, we've seen a number of partners be consumed. And that matters both to employees and to customers, I think, because from an employee point of view, consultants in the SAP world, that's what they do. They focused on SAP, and they like to work in companies that understand SAP and are focused on SAP. So it's helpful to us as we look to recruit and retain the best people in the marketplace. It's also helpful for customers because, knowing precisely what's under the bonnet and what's under our bonnet is 11,000 SAP heads. That's all we do. So having that single focus on SAP. People want to talk about other things. We've got sister companies and we work in harmony with them, but that's not what we do. So I think it's focused, it's honest, it's so continuity and being dead-eyed on being the best in the SAP marketplace.
Okay, good stuff. So let's take a few questions because there's some that have been coming in. So just looking at them in the order of how they're being voted up here. Quick reminder, you can put your questions in if you want to through the Hop-In platform. You've just talked about some of the positive impacts that you think this could have on customers. Question more specifically, how do you expect this to change the way in which we deliver projects for customers?
I guess what we've really been endeavoring to do as a global business over the last few years is operate to leverage the scale and reach that the business has. So one example is being able to support customers in global projects because we are a global business. Another is the creation of centers of excellence. So, for instance, in industry sectors such as life sciences or higher education as examples, or in lines of business such as success factors, where we have ready to run an accredited SAP solution. So those are illustrations, but the brand change per se doesn't really change that. Those things are part and parcel of our evolution to provide customers a stronger, more broader offering. And I think final example would be shoring options. We've got a strong team onshore in UK&I. Not a shop window, but a strong delivery team on the ground. So for customers that want UK-based consulting or support, it's on the ground. But equally, in larger projects, some customers want to take the opportunity to take the advantage of lower cost rates offshore. And we have nearshore centers in the likes of Spain, Turkey, as well as offshore center in India, so that we can blend together.
Okay, good stuff. Question from a longer term intelligence customer. Will contacts be changing within the organization? Will we be shifted around to different people? Are there new people coming into the business from NTT Data that we don't know?
No, absolutely not. But I think going back to the point I made earlier, I haven't had more conversations with prospective employees out in the marketplace working for other SIs that are unhappy than I've ever had in my career. No, there'll be no change in terms of the people that you're dealing with from an account management, a service delivery management, from a consulting point of view, no change. However, I do expect that our team will be growing, bringing more talent on board because of all the reasons I said earlier.
Okay, but if somebody does desperately want to change the person they deal with, they can always email you, right? If that's something that they do want to do.
We use success factors, goals and perform, so it can be nicely recorded. Absolutely.
Question here. we originally signed on with Weavability before becoming itelligence. Will there be a difference on how customers are managed and what is available depending on contracts?
What we've been working to do is support all of our customers, both long-standing itelli NTT Data Business Solutions customers, as well as more recent Weavability customers in a holistic way. So there shouldn't be any less support or service to any Weavability customer, but there should be more options as well.
Okay. Is this going to change the way that we go to market? We're very much go on our own. We're well known for running our events, the conference, etc. Is any of that going to change as we look to the future?
I guess over the last few years, Andy, I mean, the events that we've run and that you've been part and parcel of organising, such as our conferences, both virtual, ItelliFest last year, and our main annual conference in London. Maybe one day we'll get back there, Andy. Those, we've tried to embrace the offerings of our sister companies, and we will look to do that going forward. But we want to balance that. You know, what we do, as we said, is we provide comprehensive, sincere, honest opinion, advice on everything SAP, and that's what we do. That's our core offering. So while there'll be peripheral education on things that affect customers that are running SAP, our value proposition and our interest is focused on SAP.
Yeah, I've had a few people ask me about ItelliFest, and the name's changing, obviously. But I guess I can let the cat out of the bag a little bit and say there will be a online conference later on this year. So if you stay tuned to the normal channels, you can hear all about that, and hopefully as many people as possible will be able to join that online event like last year's ItelliFest. And we are, as you mentioned, making early plans now, hopefully for a return to physical events next year, which I think we're all looking forward to, I think. Okay, Justin, I think that at the moment, I believe is, oh, hang on, sorry, one question that's just come in. Let's just grab this one, and then we'll move from there. Is this going to change your focus at all to bigger customers or projects at the expense of smaller, for example, or different software areas, cloud, on-prem, ERP, analytics, etc.? So I guess that's a broad question about focus.
Yeah. And a good question. In terms of, I guess, portfolio, our focus has been on the core SAP ERP platform and the line of business applications that sit around it. We haven't focused on the Business One application, and we've no intention to. But offering a holistic, comprehensive set of offerings to a customer running the core SAP applications, that's been our goal and aim, and that remains so. I mentioned at the beginning, 50% of our business comes from the mid-market and 50% comes from large enterprise. We see that as a good split. We're actively working with SAP in both arenas, and we want to make sure there is a good balance. What I think it's probably fair to say is upper large enterprise, so large multi-billion organizations, 10 billion plus, perhaps that they have an approach to systems that isn't necessarily focused around technology. Smaller organizations focus much more around a single technology, and it's the smaller organizations, whether they're in the mid-market or whether they're in lower large enterprise, that better suit us, because what we do is SAP and we don't do anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, right. So I mentioned at the beginning of the session, and I think in the preamble as well, we mentioned that we were going to be joined by some guests today. So it's my real pleasure to welcome joining us today Celine Kazali from SAP, and Richard Hunt from Turnkey. Celine, Richard, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having us.
No
Thank
problem.
you for having us, guys.
Great to have you both joining us. I know that when we were talking about organising this event, it was quite important for us to get the views from both SAP and from partners that we work with as well. So I want to thank you very much for giving up your time today, and Celine, particularly you for giving up your time on SAP's Global Mental Health Wellbeing Day. Is that correct?
Absolutely, a new initiative, and being with NTT Italy is part of my mental health. So thank you.
Helping you build your resilience. That's what it is, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So let's start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your role at SAP, and also the role of partners in that perspective, and what you think the importance is of partners.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'd like to start with just looking back, like you started, Justin and Andy, because I started with SAP 11 years ago, and I've collaborated with you both since 11 years in different roles. Over the last 3 years, I was asked to lead our channel organization, and it's been a really interesting journey for me. What really is important to know is that SAP cannot scale without its partner, and the observation I would have is we need partners that really embrace the SAP portfolio and have the focus. So the work I've done over the last 3 years with our team was to help our partner truly focus on where they were really strong, where they had IP, build packages, so that we together brought to our customer really, really relevant solution that helped, the success and to de-risk project. And one thing I really enjoyed, Justin, in our conversation every time we met is as we grew our portfolio, I was always pushing you and asking you, are you going to take this on? And you were always very clear where, as you say, you were growing your business, where you were going to absolutely invest to develop in-house skills, and where it was a niche, really specific area where actually there are partners that have built their business and developed the skill set. And you were also very deliberate in the importance of partnering. And I remember at the conference, we were talking on that topic, that to better serve our customer, we needed to be able to deliver the full breadth. And that is what I think you've embraced really, really well. And that's what I'd encourage every partner to continue to do. So you asked me another question about how do I see my role, Andy? Yeah. Sometimes I feel like a dating agency where I introduce partners that I think should get to know each other and maybe they can partner, or hopefully I can be the dating agent of of our joint customer to find the right partner for the engagement. Okay,
that's good. So I guess if we swipe right then in the dating app, I guess one of the partners that we have, one of those who very, very focused on a particular area that, as you say, we can't do absolutely everything, is Richard. Richard, why don't you explain a little bit about that and give us the overview of your organization, Turnkey?
Sure. So yeah, firstly, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, Turnkey is a consultancy focused on security and controls for companies running SAP. So we help SAP customers to get security right on their systems. We help them to get business risks and controls right. Keeping clean audits is one of our key kind of objectives for clients. So we have a team globally. So we operate in the UK, Germany, Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, and the US. And we've been partnering with itelligence and now NTT Business Solutions for probably about 5 years now, I think. Interestingly, we've been partnering with NTT Business Solutions outside of the UK as well. So over in Asia Pac, as you pointed out, Justin, the branding there is already NTT Business Solutions. So we're working with NTT Business Solutions globally as an organization, and really, successfully, I would say. And I think kind of to the point Celine made around Justin's commitment to focusing on getting things right for customers and prioritizing that. We've seen, we've partnered very well throughout our history. We've been in this area for 17 years now, so we've been going quite a while. And we're always looking for partners who really get it and understand that this is a specialized area that needs that extra expertise. And to be honest, Justin and your team and what is now NTT Business Solutions, prior Itelli, really got the message that this area needed that separate expertise and that specialization. And to your credit, we've been able to develop a really good partnership where we can go to market together, to get these problems solved properly for our clients. So.
Okay, good stuff, Richard. Thanks very much. And I know on a personal level as well, I've worked with you and your team quite a bit, and it's clear that you bring a set of skills which are exceptionally valuable in projects that we're running. And the people who tackle the topics that you're dealing with, they love it and they want to work in an organization where that's all they do and that's all they focus on. So I think it's very important for us to have that jigsaw of partners, if you like, that we can bring together with that real specialism, where you've got a group of people who focus on that, whereas maybe we could hire one person and it just wouldn't be the same strength, would it? Richard, I guess maybe put you on the spot slightly. Do you want to contrast maybe working with a specialist SAP business like ourselves partnering versus maybe partnering with broader system integrators who do a lot more than just SAP?
Yeah, I mean, I think a really good example of that, I mean, we, to be honest, in the UK, you guys are our primary partner anyway these days, but when we have in the past worked with those more general systems integrators, what we've found a lot of the time is that they don't get the challenges around the SAP specifics of things, and we'll tend to kind of throw a couple of basis consultants at this topic, for example, without necessarily recognizing that will result in a suboptimal outcome. There's as you said, there's quite a unique sort of skill set required here to understand the compliance objectives of the client, to understand what audit are looking for, to understand some of the business processes so you get the controls points right in those business processes. And I think all of that, overlaid with an understanding of the complexity of an SAP environment, is where we've kind of had a meeting of minds with you guys that we haven't managed to achieve with some of those other more general systems integrators who just see this as another security problem or just see this as another technical problem and don't necessarily recognize that the SAP angle is quite an important aspect of that. The end-to-end capabilities from a process perspective of ERP solutions necessitate an understanding of a lot broader business process than you would need to understand in another application, for example. And I think we've brought to bear some of those compliance understanding or expertise that we've got in some of our joint clients. So, for example, Jazz Pharma is one that you guys have won an award with, and we did all the security and controls work on that with you. Really sort of understanding not just the SAP angle, but also the business controls that needed to be there to help them with their compliance objectives. So.
Yeah, that was, I mean, Jazz Pharma was a great story, wasn't it? Winning the SAP Quality Award. I think we got the Silver Award. I believe SAP got the Gold Award. Is that right? I remember that right. So I think
no comment.
Yeah, I think in years to come that one will be reviewed and will be bumped from silver to gold, I think. But I'll leave that there. Celine, coming back to you. So a couple of words have been mentioned in some of the discussions so far. I've heard strength, I've heard resilience. Do you want to just talk a little bit more about why you think sort of strength and resilience are important within partnerships? I guess particularly in these times as well that we're currently living through.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I have to say, with the mad year we've all experienced, one of the things we all had to do was to support our customer in this tough time. And again, Justin, the first thing you told me is that with the support of the group, as you mentioned, it allowed you, I don't know if the word is step in, but certainly support our joint customer. And together with SAP, it gave us the reach to be more impactful during those times. But equally, as our portfolio is getting larger, the investment we're expecting our partner to do is really important. Our board is asking us to multiply the number of certified consultants by 4, and I'm always looking to ensure that you keep enriching the certification, because ultimately that's what's going to be important to our joint customer to drive success. So for me, knowing that you have the capacity to invest in this particular time is a really, really good news for our customer, and where we're seeing the growth.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's been a very strange period, hasn't it? It's been difficult times, but I think for sure we've seen in fact, I think we've seen the relationship with SAP probably strengthen through these times, because I think it's in, what's that phrase? It's in the kind of the hardships that you really kind of test relationships, isn't it? And yeah. you test partnerships, and I think certainly I think we've come through with more strength as a result of that, for sure. Justin, is there any comment you want to make on that, the partnership and the context of these times that we've been living through?
I think yeah, the tough times do, it's like a cold, hard winter. The healthy businesses are the ones that survive and then flourish beyond, and that's really I think the way we generally feel about things. But I think Celine makes a very important point. SAP doesn't stand still, and I think our ability to invest in skills development internally, and we have a strong focus on certifications to pick up on that. But in certain areas to acquire as well, to have a balanced investment plan. We never acquire businesses that are not dead-eyed on SAP like us. We don't want the DNA polluted. You don't want to create a three-legged creature at the end of it. We're people businesses, and when you're bringing together people businesses, the culture has to be right, and that's one of the strengths, I think, of the business. Over the years, we've managed to bring in SAP-focused businesses that have then flourished. So it's getting the balance between organic investment, trying to keep pace with SAP's very large R&D pockets as they broaden the portfolio. And when the time's right, when the fit's right, selective acquisitions. I think we can plan for the future, though, with excitement and confidence. Everybody's talking about the Roaring '20s. I think this year is going to be very interesting in the marketplace in general. And every day you see press comment that the bounce back is going to be particularly strong. Unemployment isn't going to be as great, and the government's done a good job keeping people in employment through the furlough scheme, and as a result, the bounce back will be quick. So I think we should all look forward, not just our businesses, but all of our customers' businesses, to hopefully some good times ahead in UK&I. I think we've obviously come through Brexit, and that wasn't from a business point of view significant disruption potential, but that's hasn't been as bad as I think we all feared as well. So very, very optimistic, I think, for the coming few years.
I'll just put a note in there, actually, just because you mentioned the Brexit word. Anybody who's watching, who's kind of managing their SAP systems through Brexit, and they want to kind of get on top quickly of the recommendations and what's happening, I'd recommend there's a really, really good blog series written by our colleague Claire Neal. Really strong. I think it's up to 12 parts now, taking you through all of the background and all the detail around how you can kind of manage some of the Brexit changes through your SAP system. So I just make a note of that one in there. Richard, Justin talked about sort of optimism for the future. What do you see changing in your relationship with NTT DATA Business Solutions as we look to the future?
I mean, to put that simply, absolutely nothing. I mean, I think the sort of day-to-day, interactions that we have are with the individuals we work with, not the brand, and I think, the messaging you guys have given us right from the outset around the change of brand has also been very clear that nothing else changes. It was quite funny actually, because when Stan set the briefing up for me, I actually guessed at the time what it was going to be about. And he said, I can't tell you the answer to that, but it was quite funny when we had the actual briefing, just to sort of explain that it was actually exactly what I guessed. Because I kind of assumed at some point you would do this, because it makes sense. You've got a very strong global brand, in NTT Business Solutions, and it just makes, whilst you've got lots of strength in the itelligence brand as well, you're doing things twice in a lot of places, and it makes sense to do them once. So, but in terms of the actual kind of day-to-day interactions for us, I don't really expect anything to change. Perhaps a little bit more strength when we go to clients, because of some of the additional capabilities you can bring to bear with the NTT brand. But day to day, I think the people that we're dealing with are the primary thing, and that's not changing. So,
no, that's good. That's good to hear. And of course, the branding. I mean, all of our brand change from the red to the blue is quite a significant thing. By the way, I'm pleased to see you've started painting over that red wall you've got behind you there as well, just so that it can fit in with the branding. I must admit, my bright red itelligence hoodie that I used to have to wear at various user group events, that's been consigned away now for posterity. Celine, if we come back to you, you mentioned earlier on about package solutions and IP and investment and the sort of things that you like to see in partners. What's your view on the future and those areas in relation, I guess, to Itelligence NTT Data Business Solutions, but also the wider market? How do you see those things evolving?
So I think what's really interesting is that, as we have discussed many times, there is a wealth of great IP and capabilities within the NTT group that I know, Justin, you're leveraging more and more, again, where applicable to the focus you have for your customer in the UK. Your focus on the mid-market, which is where we certainly have a particular big interest in having our ecosystem really take the lead. We want to really have our partner double down on servicing our customer in the mid-market. And IP packages is what really helps de-risk program. It's predictable, it's outcome-based, and I think that's, particularly with the time that we've experienced, is what more and more companies are looking for. There is actually a real acceleration of transformation that has been brought on by COVID, but there is a real need for tangible outcome. And I think you are very well placed, and it's about leveraging all those IP and making them, picking the relevant ones for the engagement.
Great. So actually, there's a question that just popped in as we were talking about that. Justin, there's a question about whether our investment in those IP solutions is going to change as a result of this as we move forward.
I think just building on the point I made earlier, really, I think the the focus globally around both industry and specific line of business offerings, the building of IP that then supports them. Absolutely, the group is trying to be more, you know, we are looking to invest more to accelerate in certain areas, and take things on a global scale rather than look to get, you know, return or payback on purely a single country scale.
There's one quick question that's come in as well that I think it's probably worth asking. I think it's targeted for you, Justin, but I think Celine may have a comment on it as well, which is, does this mean a change in how we support our customers? The question says, you know, I'm currently, you know, our support is with, and they say itelligence for support. Does that change moving forward? How does that work?
No, I mean, again, you know, I think what we're looking to do is make sure customers have a choice of different support offerings. If customers want their SAP maintenance, SAP application support, the technical managed service, all of that to be done onshore, absolutely. We have all of those services available onshore. But equally, if for larger customers, they might want dedicated full-time support consultants assigned, and doing those, for instance, from India, the costs can be dramatically lower. We want to offer a range of options depending on the specific customer need.
And Celine, the itelligence relationship evolving into the NTT DATA Business Solutions relationship with SAP, nothing's changing, right? We still offer the same services, we still resell the same software, we still have those same capabilities in a partnership with yourselves. Absolutely.
And it's always back to back. We're there supporting you, and you're, the front of our customer. Absolutely no change there.
Okay, wonderful. So Richard, Celine, I really appreciate you giving up the time to talk today. Celine, particularly, on your mental health, you can get back to your yoga or your bottle of wine, whichever.
I might have a special lunch or play ping pong, Justin. Train for the next round. Thanks for having us, and really enjoyed the conversation.
Great, thank you. Thanks very much, Richard.
Thank you for having me, guys, and congratulations on the rebrand.
Okay, thanks very much. Speak to you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Richard.
Okay, Justin, so there's a few questions that are coming in. In all honesty, I think they're touching topics that we've already talked about, but there is one particular one that I just wanted to pick up on, which I guess is not specifically related to the topic today. Somebody's saying they want to make better use of their SAP implementation. They want to use it more the way that it could or should be used. And part of that is understanding what's available. So they're asking, what kind of things do we do as an organization? So I think maybe this is somebody who doesn't work with us that much at the moment. What are the things that we can do to help them in that way? So kind of, I was thinking in my head, things like team, the value acceleration team, and I didn't know whether you want to flesh some of that out for the questioner.
Yeah, so thanks, Andy. And I'll kick it off, but I think your input as well. Yeah, I guess we, through the business transformation team led by Richard Stokes, our aim is to provide, I guess, customers with what we would call a living roadmap, to take into account how their business, how they're expecting their business to change, the requirements that they're being faced with, married together with the SAP technology, and how we see that evolving, so that together there's an evolving living roadmap. But again, as you point out, we also have another team, the value acceleration team, and what they look to do is to help land technical solutions effectively in organizations. It's relatively straightforward to set up a technical solution, but actually making sure that the business outcome is the one that the business expected is subtly different. So that value acceleration team helps do that. But I think there's also tools and techniques to help assess the effectivity of the current SAP deployment. How best practice is it? And I don't know if you want to comment more on that one.
Yeah, so I guess viewers might be familiar with the acquisition SAP did recently of an organization called Signavio. I guess people might be aware of another product called Celonis, which is a kind of a process mining solution that's out there. And Signavio is very similar to that. You point it at your existing systems, it mines the processes and can help you understand how the systems are being used. You know, you might be sitting there thinking, you know, I know how people create purchase orders. I know how they raise sales orders. You then run this analysis and you can see that actually there's 20, 30, 40 different ways that people do these things. So absolutely those tools are there, and I would recommend reaching out to your NTT DATA Business Solutions representative to find out more about those. The Signavio acquisition is going to be fundamental for SAP, I think, moving forward. It's going to be integrated more and more into the preparation services for S/4HANA, the evaluations around that. So that's really important. I guess the only other comment I was going to make was, I think you've talked very well about the services that we have available and the things that we can do for customers in that perspective. But I would also add, you know, our website now and our various social channels, you know, are a good source of a lot of free information to help you understand what you can do with the solutions. So I mentioned the Brexit series earlier on that's up there. There's loads of posts on analytics and data management, lots of things to help you get your head around what can be done, particularly on what SAP call the journey to the intelligent enterprise. And we've got, you know, events scheduled coming up in our calendar as well that can help you better understand that. A key example of that would be, I think it's the 26th of next month. We've got All Rise, the session that we're running, talking about the options for customers on how they move forward with running their SAP, whether that's on-premise, off-premise, in a private cloud, in a hosted data center, or with the Rise with SAP initiative, because there's a whole range of stuff here and it can be really, really confusing. So I would say, you know, you've got opportunities to reach out to our colleagues for advice and engagements, but also don't forget the huge amount of free advice that's out there that you can take from us as well, which can be really helpful. So let me just see if there's any other questions. Oh, there's one more clarification, actually, Justin. I asked you earlier on about the support relationship. There's a further clarification here. The question is saying, currently they go through itelligence rather than direct to SAP. Will that change? I guess the fundamental is many customers have their software maintenance and support contracted with us. So if that is the case, that continues to be the way in which you raise and manage support tickets. If any customers are listening and they have that relationship where they have to go direct to SAP, maybe it's worth knowing that you can change that and you can come through a third party like us if you so wish. Anything else you'd want to add to that, Justin? I know sometimes these relationships can seem a bit complicated from the outside.
Andy, apologies, but I lost reception then. I
was just saying about the partnerships. There were some questions around some customers have their support through a third party like itelligence, NTT Data Business Solutions, rather than contacting SAP. Others go straight to SAP and they don't use an organization like us for support. I was just trying to say there are options there, right? People have a choice. But that choice isn't necessarily always obvious for every customer because the contracts might be managed at a different level from where the operational activities go on.
100%, exactly.
So I think the message there is, if you're currently supported by an organization and you want to talk to us about how we could help you with that, then by all means, get in touch. We will be running, as I said, upcoming events, and one of those is going to be focused on managed service provision as well. So by all means, tune into that or contact us if you want more information. Okay, so we're getting near the end of the session now. So Justin, thank you very, very much for your support today. I've mentioned the event that we've got coming up on May the 26th, the All Rise event. We will be joined by David McIntyre from analyst firm Nelson Hall. They've done some great research about running SAP in the cloud and the various implications of that. So I'm sure there'll be lots of debate and lots of discussion on that. I'll have a final quick scan of the questions. Looks like we've covered them all. Those of you who wish to, as I say, there's a wealth of NTT Data Business Solutions colleagues on the platform on Hopin who can be reached out to for conversations. Any questions that you have, please post them or feel free to email us after the event. Andy.steer@nttdata.com, justin.brading@nttdata.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks.